Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Injury Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Craig Selinger, chiropractic physician. And today we have an interesting episode. We talk a lot about what happens during an injury, different types of injuries on the show. Today we're going to talk about what happens after the injury. A lot of us have heard of post-traumatic stress after a trauma or traumatic injury that happens in our life. And it's funny to say this, and actually, not to make light of this, but even just driving here, the traffic because of spring break and all these different people that are visiting Florida, it is late March now. A lot of people here, I could attest to some post-traumatic stress I'm going through just in getting to the studio and trying to get parking around this area today. It was pretty stressful. But we're going to talk about a different perspective, not post-traumatic stress as much, but post-traumatic growth. And we have one guest with us, and we have a co-host on our show today. I'd like to introduce our first guest. He's been on the show before. His name is Dr. Troy Rand, and he has a PhD in exercise science. And we're going to be discussing today this concept, some research that's out there to help people look at their trauma as possibly a way to grow. How can they grow out of this traumatic experience? And also someone who is here today is a co-host. Alay is here, and she was in a prior episode as well, and she's going to be helping us today in the episode and shedding light also through some of the things and experiences that she's had in her life. So we've got a great show. This is something that if you know anyone that's been injured and they're having the effects, they're still coping with the accident, this is something that they should definitely listen to and watch, because we're going to have some great insight today. So with that, Dr. Rand, what is let's back it up. Let's define first post-traumatic stress, and then we'll go into the post-traumatic growth. So post-traumatic stress, how would you define that in
Yeah, so post-traumatic stress is just simply when you go through a very traumatic experience, it's the negative outcomes of that. So the anxiety, the stressfulness that you experience from that. And a lot of people that go through really bad situations, it brings them down. So the post-traumatic stress is a negative reaction to the stressor. Mm-hmm. And it can manifest in many ways. I know one of the common ones is people that have been to war. They really don't do good around 4th of July because the fireworks go off and it triggers them thinking that there's gunshots, and it brings them back to war. And that's a very common, typical PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder response.
Right. And now, in terms of post-traumatic growth, why don't you shed some light on that, because this is what the episode is about today.
Yeah, so post-traumatic growth, it's a very real phenomenon, and it can be the same stressors that cause post-traumatic stress can instead cause growth. And there's actually 5 domains that we can get into in some aspect of post-traumatic growth, but just simply things like, man, if I survive that situation, look at how strong I am. Look what else I can survive. Another one is reliance on people. So you develop closer personal relationships, and you learn that you have to rely on people sometimes to get through these hard times. So there's a couple examples of where you can grow as a person as a result of a hard or stressful situation.
Wow. Okay. Why do some people come back stronger and others just can't come, they come back different, but in a bad way?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it, it really comes down to mindset and how you frame those situations. So if you look at that situation and you look at yourself as, I'm the victim, oh, poor me, this happened to me, you're going to be stressed. But if you can look at it like I said before, look, I got through that. Look how strong I am. You become a better person of it. But it really comes down to how you frame the situations, and it's an ongoing process. So you can't just be like, "Oh, I'm good," and then you're good. Like you have to constantly remind yourself.
Wow. Okay. And Alea, I know you had a tragic accident some time back. Um, to you, how did you reframe some, what had happened? I know at first there's this initial shock, but after the shock, and after you had gotten the treatment and so forth, how did you reframe?
So it definitely took a long time. I'm not gonna lie. It takes a long time to finally realize that you're here, you're alive, and you have to take everything one step at a time. I actually have a tattoo that says one day at a time. That means a lot to me. And my mom, she always looks at it and reminds me that to take everything one day at a time. Um, just to have patience in your growth. It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that takes time and asking for help. It's very important to reach out to the people who care about you and see you as a person and want to help you. It's very important to have those kind of people in your life. They definitely help you grow. They help you see the world differently. They help you realize that people aren't as bad as you think. Situations happen like mine. People weren't so great to me, but I had to realize that there's people out there who want to help. There's people out there who see you as a human being and not as someone with a disability. There's people out there who will care for you and love you, and you just have to be open to that.
Right. So in this, what are the elements of some of the research that we had spoke before, Dr. Mann, about research that was being done, and there are elements to this post-traumatic growth. What are the elements? And let's shed some light on that.
Yeah, so I think if we look at the five domains that they've defined, we talked about personal strength briefly. So if I can get through this, I can handle just about anything. Close relationships, you just alluded to that, the people that love you, that are there for you. Another one is greater appreciation for life. So once you've been through these situations, you understand, I'm sure you can attest that, like, I'm still here and life is wonderful, even though you probably went through some pretty heavy mental stuff when you did that. New possibilities. So opening yourself up to other things that are possible because of the situations that you went through. And then spiritual development is also one of those. And so I think a lot of people have that growth in their spirituality because they start to see a bigger picture of the whole situation. So those are the five domains that they've defined in post-traumatic growth. And this body of research has been around, it kind of really came out in the late 90s, and they've been doing it for, 20 some, almost 30 years now, pretty heavily. So
Wow. So did they follow people that had specific type injuries or traumatic events? And that's how they came up with it, pretty much?
yeah, I mean, the body of research has looked at a lot of different stuff, but they look at people who have been through stressful situations that responded with post-traumatic stress, and then people that actually their lives improved. So that was how they really looked into it.
Okay. So the first one that you spoke about, so to gain that, I guess the confidence was that the first one?
Personal strength, yeah.
Personal strength. So for somebody um, to build that, what what could be things? Would it be, uh, hey, I was able to tie my shoes today. I was able to do a certain activity. That giving them that giving them confidence. Maybe can you speak to some examples of there people out there that some more examples or things that they can do to be able to make sure that they're able to capture that first domain.
Yeah, I think one of the big things with something like this is when you get injured, it's going to knock you down. You're going to go way back from where you were, and you have to start there and rebuild. And I know our last episode we talked a little bit about progressive overload, right? So progressive overload just means you have to stress the system enough to make it adapt, and then you stress it a little bit more, make it adapt more. You can't stress it too much at first. So similar, like you said, for one person, it might be tying their shoes, might be progressively overloading their system. But then when they can get that down and it builds that confidence, then they can step it up a notch and they can do the next harder task beyond that. And so it's really, I think, when you experience that traumatic situation, you have to assess yourself as to, okay, here's where I'm at now, and then learn to grow from there. Because same thing with physical activity. If I've been running marathons and I take a year off and I go back to running, I'm not anywhere near what I was. But in my head, I want to go out and run 10 miles.
Right.
But I can't do that my first week. I got to build back up.
Right.
You know, so it's a similar thing where after an injury, you're going to have to assess where you're at now so that you know your starting level so that you can slowly build back up.
Right. Okay. And the next domain that you spoke about, how do we give some more examples, or let's go a little deeper into that one?
Yeah, so close relationships, that's, one thing when it was stressful situations, you learn that you have to accept help. You have to rely on other people. Another one is when you go through those situations with people, it develops strong bonds. I'm sure you can attest that the family that supported you through your ordeal, you have a much stronger relationship with them now. They may have been great relationships before, but it just developed more.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. I mean, me and my mom did not have a very great relationship before my injury. So when the injury happened, it definitely brought me and my mom closer. She helps me with any care that I need, any personal hygiene care that I need whenever I'm sick. She's there. Um, having being open to opening your body and opening yourself just to being helped is not easy. It's not, because I'm an adult and feeling vulnerable in front of my mom. It's just I would rather be strong, but I had to realize that I'm sorry, being vulnerable is good because it helps you open up to relationships that you never thought you could build. And I mean, me and my family were like this. We've created such a good bond. We go on trips. My sister takes care of me when my mom's not home. No one has a problem, taking care of me. It's not an issue because we've created a bond, we've created boundaries, we've created stuff that works for us. And whatever works for people, go for it.
Mm,
Because you need that help.
that's beautiful. That's wonderful. So that is so important because it's hard to go through something like that alone. And we need, when we have people we can rely on, we have that support, that love, it's going to help us become stronger than trying to do everything on our own. I know a lot of people out there, if you're listening, don't be afraid to ask for help. Some people are afraid to ask for help, and because of that, they shut off. So, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, and again, this particular show and episode is for educational purposes only. It is not. It does not. It is not a substitute for going and seeing a psychologist. But a lot of times, when we're opened, when we're vulnerable, we're able to connect, and that connection can help us grow. So that makes sense, and that's really important for people to understand that are going through an injury. A lot of men, I think, too, are very strong minded and they've got this macho mentality where if they feel that they open up, that they're weak. So it's important to have a conversation, start a conversation like this, that openness and connection are so important for becoming stronger and growing and being able to cope with the effects of a very traumatic injury or even something that might not be as traumatic, but it still might have an effect on people. They could, because of that, wind up getting divorced, getting fired. They still might be able to walk around and do different things, but because they're closed off and they're not connected or they're not vulnerable, they are going to have long-term effects of this accident. It's going to affect them, or injury is going to affect them in different ways.
I think that's a really good point, is that all this stuff that we're talking about post-traumatic growth applies not just to very severe situations, but also even minor things that are stressors you can experience the growth from. And it's kind of funny because I've built a lot of my framework and my coaching off of doing hard things. I call it healthy adversity, and you should, create this healthy adversity in your life, because I learned so much from bad adversity in my life. And then I realized I learned so much from that. I can learn the same stuff from healthy adversity. And I'm really big into doing like physical feats like marathons, ultra marathons, things like that. But just doing hard things, getting up and speaking in front of people, anything that's challenging for you. And it's because even though you might not say, oh, getting up and speaking in front of someone's trauma, well, to some people it is.
Some people are, yeah.
People,
But
definitely.
right. So it is a traumatic experience, and you can grow from that, and you will grow from that if you frame it that way. And it's definitely easier for people to frame things in a growth light when it's something they do on purpose and it has a healthy connotation. So I think it's more important that you understand this from when things happen to you, because that's where it's easy to fall victim to the victim mentality.
Right.
To think, oh, this happened to me. Why'd this happen to me? It's not fair. All these things. But if you do that, you're going to stay where you're at. And that's where this is really important.
Right. Okay. What's the next element? Let's dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, the next one is a greater appreciation for life. So kind of that changed sense of what's really important, an increased importance on the little things. I'm sure with you, there's a lot of things that you never even thought about until you couldn't do them. And then you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, that's got to be, very
It's
hard.
very frustrating in the beginning. Not being able to put my shoes on, not being able to dress, not being able to get up and use the bathroom. You know, there's some things that you never think about before it happens to you till it happens. And then, you're kind of just like, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot at one time. But, you know, when you start to realize that you can do anything you want, anything that you put your mind to, you can do it. I never thought I would go back to college or school. I'm in college right now and I have 2 A's.
That's
Nice.
great.
Something
Awesome.
that I've never had in my life. Things that I never thought I could do. I can put my shoes on. I can tie my shoes. I can dress. I can get on the floor if I want to. I can transfer easily in and out of my bed, in and out of the couch. But it took time. It took time and patience. But I finally did it. And it feels good.
Do you remember anything that happened or clicked where you said, okay, I can, and would even do small things and those meant something to you? Do you remember, was there like a switch or something that happened in your mind, a feeling that you could share that might help somebody else that hasn't made that switch yet?
Yes, definitely. So when I was in rehab, a month after I got shot, um, I was so scared to transfer. I looked at the floor like it was so far. I thought I was going to fall and face plant. I wasn't. But that's just what I thought. I was scared to do it. Till I realized I have no other choice. I don't have, I can't say I can't do it. I have to grow as a person, my mindset, emotionally, physically, everything. I had to realize that if I'm not going to do it, then who's going to do it for me? I'm in control of my body. I'm in control of myself. I can do anything I want to do. So when I had that kind of switch of mindset, it was so much more easier. My body was more relaxed. I was more relaxed. Like I could transfer so easily without thinking I'm gonna fall and face plant. It was like it was a moment that made me so happy and made me realize that I can do whatever I want to do.
Right. And for some people out there that don't know Alay's story, on a previous episode, she was on and she had a tragic accident. It was a gunshot, and that she had in her spinal cord and in her spine, and that led to her being paralyzed at 18. And she has a remarkable spirit and actually demonstrated this post-traumatic growth. That's why I wanted to have her come on and co-host with me and for us to discuss these so we could share it with other people, so can give people hope, because that's so important. When we lose hope, then we stop trying. When we stop trying, it's like a vicious cycle. Then we become more hopeless and more victim, and then the effects of the injury or the accident just keep magnifying and keep living on, and rob that person of of a life that could be full of meaning.
Exactly.
So, and you exemplify that.
Mhm.
So so that's great. So if you're out there, if someone's out there, don't give up hope, because there's these steps that this information that we're going over right now shows that people that have had even the most tragic of accidents or illnesses can grow, can have meaning in their life. And I think that's just so important, and we need that for people to understand that having an injury, it's not a death sentence or um, a sentence meaning that you have no more fun in your life and no more meaning, that your life does matter and that you could still enjoy so much in the world. So,
I don't know if you've ever heard of the book called Man's Search for Meaning.
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was in the concentration camps in Germany, and his book basically says what you just said, is that the people with hope are the ones that made it out, and that the people that didn't have hope, they would just give up and wouldn't make it. And so as the people that had the meaning and had the hope were the ones that were more likely to survive through, what was a horrible ordeal.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's discuss the next element, or the next domain now.
Yes, the next domain is new possibilities. And so this is like the recognition of availability of opportunities and more likelihood to change things that need changing and willingness to explore new opportunities.
Okay.
And, I think your example of going back to college, it's a great example of exploring opportunities after a traumatic situation.
Yeah.
This whole thing is like you're a
Basically
perfect
me,
you're a
yeah.
perfect person to discuss
Yeah.
this, because like you've been through one of the most traumatic things, that you could go through, and you seem to be doing very well in spite of, your circumstances.
I've definitely grown a lot. Um, I'm not gonna say I'm 100% healed. I'm not gonna say I'm 100% happy. You know, everyone goes through things.
Well, that's like I said earlier, that it's a process.
It's a process.
And so, like, you don't want to be the victim, but I'm sure there's times where you're still like, why me? Why did this happen? Like, you have to have those feelings occasionally,
Yeah.
but then you,
But then you realize, why have those feelings when you can have positive feelings? When
Right.
you can turn those negative feelings into positive feelings. You can find things that you love to do, um, and do it.
Right. And also from another perspective, I mean, we all as everyone out here, almost everybody, I should say, we all have things that we can do, and we have lots of things that we can't do. I can't play for the Heat. Okay, I'm 5 feet tall. I don't think that they'll be wanting to draft me anytime soon. So, I mean that's. I'm just saying we all have our limitations, and when we do have tragedy, some things that are small that we can't do anymore. I mean that's extreme, but people have to realize, well, just like what you were saying, hey, maybe I can't do that, but I'm going to school and I'm doing this and I'm having connections with other people that I know. I mean, you could DJ, you could do a lot of things if you wanted to do. There's the possibilities are endless, and I think as a society, sometimes we have a tendency to look at what you can't have,
Mm-hmm.
what you can't do, or what you can't have. I shouldn't say, I'm not saying you, but myself, I think I catch myself in saying or wanting things. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. And we're not grateful sometimes for what we do have,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at the possibilities of what art is attainable for us and in it's available to us.
and that's that greater appreciation for life concept that, you can become more happy with what you have when you realize what you possibly couldn't have,
Mm-hmm.
Right,
right?
right,
Or when you lose something big, you become more appreciative of what you do have.
right.
You have, yeah.
And in so many people we see in society are not happy because of what they feel they don't have, or that because they feel they need something to be happy. They need to be with that person and then I'm going to be happy. They need to have that house, or they need to have this, or they need to have that better job, or they need for this or that. And they're always looking for
More.
more, or and because of that, that doesn't allow them to be happy. And even if they can walk around and do many different things, they're not happy because of their perspective.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's a great thing to strive for more, but it's not a good thing to place that more, your self-worth on that more.
Right.
You have to learn to be happy and content with where you're at, but you don't have to stay where you're at. You can always strive for more. But it's when you say, "Oh, I need this to be fulfilled."
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And I think a lot of people in society, they won't admit that, but they're always chasing something because they think in the back of their mind that that's what's going to make them happy.
Yeah.
And I think that if somebody has a tragedy, an injury, and they had a certain mindset, and then they become injured, a lot of those feelings and that mindset they have, I mean, it goes with them. And it can be harder for somebody with a huge ego, with thinking that, that they have to, that their self-esteem is based upon the house they have, or the money they have, or the spouse that they're with, and all these different things. So, I mean, this can be applicable to many different situations, not just a tragedy, but these are just great, healthy mindsets to have, I think, for anyone.
Yeah, and I think when we look at it in the case of like extreme trauma, it magnifies it so that we can see it so clear.
Right.
But then, like I said earlier, we can apply this to even the smallest of inconveniences and stuff.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a great trauma, but that's where we can really see it. You know, people, the last of the five domains of spiritual development, you know, people really come to God when they're on their deathbed.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, the greater the trauma, the more this is going to be apparent, whether it's the growth or the stress. You know, so
Right. So, yeah, let's talk about that next domain. It's going a little deeper to that.
yeah, I mean, I think the spiritual development, lots of times people just, you know, when you go through something really tragic like that, you start to see a bigger picture. And I don't know. I mean, I think that can be different for different people, you know, because religion, it can be so personal, spirituality can be so personal. Uh, but you just develop like a deeper awareness of life and the connection between people, you know, which I think is a very spiritual type of manifestation of that.
Right. Did you notice spirituality changes
So
through your journey?
this is a very difficult question. In the beginning, um, everyone around me and a lot of people tried to kind of throw God to me, and I've never really been religious. I've never believed in anything. I just grew up like that. I was since a little baby, I've been very observant. I'm a very observant person, very conscious of everything that happens around me. Um, so when I got shot and when I was losing consciousness, I did see the white light. Now, what does that mean? I don't know, but I did see a white light, and I seen my grandma that passed away 2 years prior to that. What was that? I don't know. I then eventually woke up and in the hospital. Who kept me here? I don't know. It's very hard to believe in anything when there's so much going on in the world, and when it's hard to believe that something that bad could have happened to me, you know. So it's a back and forth thing.
Mm.
I would love to believe in something, but it's not for me. I kind of just found, I want to say, spirituality in myself, more of the universe, more, I don't know. It's a very difficult question for me.
It is a difficult
But
question. I
Yeah.
think the whole question of spirituality can be difficult because religion and spirituality get so mixed up and intertwined.
Yeah.
But like your experience of the white light and your grandmother, I mean, that had to have been a spiritual experience. And then I get people throwing, you know, God stuff at you, and it's hard. And I know we're not going to get into religion on this podcast, but
Yeah.
like my view of spirituality and God is that it is all the universe. And so when you said that about the universe, it just that made sense to me. You know, I believe that's, you know, everything's connected through the universe, and that's where
Yeah.
spirituality comes in. And I do think that, you know, that those really traumatic experiences, they can bring that out.
Yeah.
And I can understand where you'd have some conflict because of other people's trying to put their religion onto it, especially when you go through that and they're going to be like,
Yeah.
you know, really trying to.
I hear a lot, God kept you here for this, for that. Um, but I think I just survived. I survived something very traumatic, and I'm alive. I now have to live my life with the disability that I have. I sometimes question if God was real, why would he ever put me in a position that I was put in? But I don't like to question that because I don't know what's real or what's not. So I kind of just go on with my life, you know, I just like to flow. I like to go with the flow. I like to, spend one day at a time, and
There you go.
I don't know. I don't know. I like to stare at the sky and just think about what could be out there.
right,
Yeah.
that there's more
That there's
than
more.
maybe what we just see
Mhm.
here. And I'm sure that perspective's a lot different than prior to your accident?
I mean, definitely. I was never really before my injury. I was never someone that thought about spirituality, religion. I was just someone that just lived. I just lived. I just did everything, you know, day by day. But it's definitely after the injury, you look at the world differently. You see everything so much more differently. You look at people differently. Everything is just different. Are you safe? Are you not? Can you walk into this mall? Are you safe? You know, you have to live your life, sorry, live your life with caution. It's hard because you don't want to have to live your life walking around looking everywhere thinking something's going to happen to you or not, but you never know.
Mm.
And you have to kind of live with that feeling that something could happen to you. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. It's a difficult question for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
And for everyone it's different. I mean, I know
It-
people who believe in God, and I have no problem with that. Of course, I sing conversations about God or and I respect that. But for me, it's not for me.
Yeah, and I think that's, this. I think the spiritual is different from the religion.
Mhm.
Religion has a component of spirituality, yes,
Right.
but
They're two different.
spirituality,
They're two different things.
yeah. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like you said, you didn't really question anything before, and now sometimes you look at the sky
Yes.
and question it. So that is, in my eyes, spiritual development,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Definitely.
yeah, we're not saying that you became religious,
But I definitely question things.
yeah, you question things, and
Yeah.
so I think that's where we see that
Mm-hmm.
in a similar light.
Mhm.
Because I'm the same way. Like I'm not religious by any means, but I'm very spiritual, and it's been the hard times in my life that have brought me there because I've seen stuff and manifest in my life that just make me believe that there's something else out there.
Yes.
Right. I'm kind of like you, where I'm not trying to define it. I'm not trying to write it down, but there's something going on.
Sometimes things happen where you're just like, this can't be real,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes, wow, sometimes things happen to you, you just can't believe it. Like it's insane.
Yeah, the universe
Yeah.
is something that can be so awesome and for us,
Scary at the same time.
it's scary, awesome, like a mystery. But I think understanding and trying to appreciate it is something in our spirit in a spiritual journey that can connect us, maybe connect us to that, so we feel more calm. Possibly, I don't know. I think that's how I look at spirituality. If I feel more connected to that, somehow it calms me down. It puts things in perspective. Sometimes people like myself might make a big deal out of something that's not such a big deal. And when I'm just step back and I practice mindfulness and being understanding or just calming down and breathing, maybe meditate, I could take a different viewpoint
Yeah, it grounds you.
from that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
These domains. So anything else about this research that you've seen that has changed the way that you maybe train and coach people? Because you're a coach, you're a fitness coach, and you help people that have had setbacks
Yep.
and want to grow.
Yeah, the main thing is being aware of the different areas of growth, I believe, and then being able to exploit that through training. And just a lot of it is just explaining it to my clients, why am I torturing you right now, putting you through this hard workout? Well, because I want you to come closer to God. Joking, but that type of thing, like, okay, we're going through this. Well, hard workouts are a great example of personal strength. When you've been through a really, really tough workout, it gives you that feeling of like, okay, I can manage that. I can do better. close relationships. You know, tomorrow morning, actually, I'm running a Spartan race with one of my clients,
Nice.
you know, and so, yeah, it'll be like, you know,
That'll bring you
we'll
guys
get a little
together.
bit
Yeah.
stronger
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, because we'll go through something tough together, you know.
Right.
And both my kids are running also. The kids,
Wow.
Wow,
Spartan. So,
nice.
yeah, so it develops that relationship with my kids and with, you know, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. Maybe a greater appreciation for life when you're really suffering
Yes.
that
But
race. You're like, okay, if I can get through this, life's going to be better.
you know, something you just mentioned to me is doing a race with someone else versus just running it solo. I feel I take different exercise classes, and when I'm in the class versus when I'm just working out by myself, there's a different energy. There's I feel like I could do another rep. I just show up more. And I think that other people have the same experience, and that might be one of the domains that we're talking about before about having a support system or support network. How important it is, yes, for us to recover from injury, from tragedy, but even for us to get to level up, to get to the next level.
Yeah, just like when you go through something bad with somebody that's very difficult. Same thing if you go through something that's difficult, it's good, like a really hard workout. You know, you got your
Right.
bond. Like they say, misery loves company. You know, so you go through this horrible, miserable workout, but you had people there with you that,
It's more tolerable.
yep, and that develops that bond with those people.
Right, right.
That's funny because okay, we're gonna get into a little deep story. But when I was shot, I was with my ex-boyfriend. You would think that would have made us stronger. It actually broke us apart.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess my disability got in the way. Um, from his words, he didn't want to see me suffer. Um, you know, that definitely broke me because I thought that kind of tragic moment would have brought us together and brought us more stronger. Our relationship, our bond would have grown stronger. It definitely hurt the fact that we grew apart after when it should have made us stronger.
Yeah.
But who cares? I have a family.
That's right.
My
Well,
bond grew so much stronger.
and that's what I was going to say. It's like what you talked about with your family earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That should have happened with him
With him.
also.
But it happened with who should
With it, who it should
with
have.
exactly
Right.
with who it should have happened. You know, exactly. Life is weird.
Yeah.
That's back to spirituality.
Right.
Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, and it had to happen like that.
Yeah.
He had to leave my life.
If you two were meant to spend your life together,
Exactly.
you guys would be
Would've-
so close right now because of that situation. It would have
Mhm.
brought you right together like it has with your family.
Exactly.
But in that situation,
Yeah.
it didn't happen out. It didn't work
Yeah.
out that way. But
Yeah.
That's a great, probably a litmus test for some people that are in our lives when we have either injuries or tragedies or setbacks. Maybe how people show up for us and how our relations make these situations easier for us is so indicative of how healthy or how good the relationship is, because some people just stay in something and it's never been tested. It's never been tested. And when these things happen in our life, it's a test on those relationships and those bonds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It it was it was crazy to live it in the moment. Looking back, I'm definitely grateful that it happened because if we would have stayed together, definitely he would have been a very bad influence on me. I wouldn't have been as strong as I am today. Um so I am glad that he left because I have a stronger mentality. I am emotionally stronger. Um there are certain things that I never thought I could do while I was with him, and now my mentality has opened up so much to so many new opportunities that I would have never been able to reach if I was with him. So, if you're in a toxic relationship, leave. Leave.
Wow.
Well, and it took something like this to bring it out.
Exactly.
But you could have spent another 20 years with this person before it
Before it
came to a
happened.
head,
Yeah.
and
Things happen for a reason, for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
And
maybe there would have been a worse tragedy than this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it all happened the way it did. I'm happy that I'm alive.
Yes.
I'm very grateful for the life that I have now. I'm very happy. I I'm content.
What are some of the new possibilities that you're exploring right now? I know you're in college. You got 2 A's. Awesome.
Thank you.
What are some of the things you're looking for?
So I just want to grow. I want to grow as a person even more. I want to, like I said last time, I want to do sonography. Um, there's been so many events at the college. I finally feel confident enough to roll around by myself. Um, I am finally confident enough to talk to people. Um, it's been really great coming out of my shell and finding that confidence in myself, being able to do things alone, being able to go out alone, and not being scared of what people might think or say, um, because this is my reality. This is my life. I can't change it, and you just have to be content with who you are, because if you're not, then you're never gonna be able to accomplish things that you never thought you would.
Right. So you're comfortable in your own skin.
Yes, I finally feel like I can just go out. I stroll around campus all by myself. I go to class by myself. I leave class and I just go around talking to people. I have a smile on my face.
And this is the type of stuff before your injury you wouldn't have done.
Mm-mm. No.
So this whole new personality is coming out,
Yeah.
this openness,
Yeah.
because you've got knocked down so far,
Mm-hmm.
you realize how you need to grow, and now you're growing. The good thing about growth is there's no cap.
No.
You can keep growing.
You can just there's
Sky's the
no-
limit.
Yeah.
Exactly. There are no limitations. I don't see any limitations.
That's
No,
awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So this has been great. Dr. Rand, I want you to mention again just quickly the 5 domains for post-traumatic growth. We'll put this information in the show notes. But before you do that, I just want to mention to people, if you're going through something, definitely go and seek professional help. This is not a substitute for you seeing a therapist or somebody that is a counselor that's a professional. We're just exploring new concepts, new ideas to maybe give people hope or insight of what's out there, and that there is hope and there is growth after tragedy, after injury, and that you could become all that you want to be. All that you want to be. So again, let's summarize those real quick, and then we'll move on to our next segment.
Yeah, so the 5 domains of post-traumatic growth, again, are personal strength, close relationships, a greater appreciation for life, new possibilities, and spiritual development.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we are coming towards the end of our show, and we have a ritual here that we do. At the end of the show, we give away a superhero tumbler to our guests. And we do that because the Injury Podcast is a podcast that wants to give hope to people. And the superhero tumbler is kind of a symbol of comeback, of resiliency, of moving forward. So it's a little memento we give to our guests, and it helps them know that we appreciate them for coming on the show, sharing, and helping our audience out there grow and come back. So with that, Dr. Wren, of our superhero tumblers, we have with us today in the studio, we have Superman, Captain America, Hulk, I have, but I don't have up there, Thor, Batman, Wonder Woman, And I know you had picked Wonder Woman before,
Yep.
but so we do have it available if you want. If you want a second one, that's okay. But I would like to offer you another tumbler.
All right.
Which one?
I am going to, I know it's not up there, but I'm going to have to go with Hulk.
Okay.
The reason being is, right here on your sheet, it's turning adversity into strength.
Yes.
I also grew up watching the old school Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk show, and on my little black and white TV when I was a kid, that was amazing. So, but mostly because you have turning adversity into strength as the thing. That's what we're all about today, and so
Awesome.
got to go with the Hulk.
Okay. NLA, which superhero tumbler resonates with you today?
I definitely picked Wonder Woman last time, but I actually finished the series, the Marvel series.
Oh,
Yeah, it
awesome.
was awesome. I'm gonna go with Captain America.
There we go. Awesome. All right. Very good. Any do you just like the movies, or is it something that speaks to you?
So actually, do we have time?
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, we
a
do.
minute.
We do.
In my literature class, my professor, he assigned us to read Batman, and he assigned us to watch some Marvel movies, and I actually wrote an essay about superheroes and how they sometimes have their weak moments,
Mm.
like us,
Yes.
like humans.
Yeah.
And I have that connection with a superhero.
Cool.
I feel like a hero sometimes to
Nice.
people who are in the position that I was 3 years ago.
Nice.
Sometimes people see me as a hero. Sometimes people see me as a light. And yeah, I definitely do resonate with Captain America.
That's awesome.
I just want to say, I think you're a superhero.
Thank you.
This type of stuff is what I'm all about, what I preach, what I live, and you are an embodiment of someone who's been through one of the worst things, and you're coming out of it
Right.
amazing, and
Thank you.
definitely a hero to me.
It means a
Right.
lot.
And we just have a couple minutes left, but I do want to give some information of how people can contact Dr. Rand if they want to reach out to him. What's the best way to be able to contact you?
The best is just on Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Troy's Training, and that's dr.troi.training. So Dr. Troy's Training on Instagram. You can reach me there, send me a message, follow me.
Awesome.
That way.
And you train people, you coach people
Yep.
in fitness and variety of different.
Yep, fitness, nutrition, doing hard things.
Great. Okay, awesome. And Alay, how could people reach you?
Yes, of course. I have an Instagram. It is IITSAILE. You can always DM me, talk about your story, ask any questions about anything. I'm always open. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great episode about something that an accident or an injury doesn't have to have long-term effects. It is actually a possibility for us to actually grow. And I appreciate everyone being here with us today so we can dive a little deeper into this. And again, if you like this type of information, subscribe to the channel. A lot of people watch our shows and episodes and they don't subscribe. So subscribe and you'll get notifications of more information like this. Subscribe, follow, like. We'll see you on the other side. Have a great day.